RFE stands for. In this example, we're using dumbbells. You can use kettlebells. This can also be performed with a barbell. You just don't have as much flexibility to move the weights around your side. So when you have a barbell, it's out in front of you, it increases the load on the back half of your body and it's just a little more challenging. So exact same hinging mechanics as a typical RDL, where we're having our weight a little bit more in our heels, or even toward the back half of our foot, not nearly toward the middle. And we're trying to have a slight knee bend, and we're sinking into our hips, keeping our back in a neutral position. And we're gonna hinge as far as we can without rounding our back. So when we round our back, it takes the tension off of our hamstrings and the back half of our body, which is what we're after with the movement. So rear foot elevated. I have an 18-inch box here. A lot of times at the gym we'll use just a bench, which is roughly about 18 inches. So whatever equipment you have access to, you can use a bench, you can use a box, you can use like a couch, a chair, something just to elevate your rear foot. 12 to 18 inches, somewhere in that ballpark is ideal. So when we get set up, I'm gonna just step about a step length out to start, and I'll have to kind of play with my positioning. So 1 foot length from the surface that your foot's gonna be elevated on is typically not quite enough, so I'll go 1 foot and then scoot out about another half, and I prop my foot up. I prefer to go with my toe pointed like so. Some people will go with their toe curled like that or pressed into the bench. Either or is fine. The biggest thing that we're trying to avoid is when we go through that hinging motion is really twisting and opening up into our hip. And a lot of people do that. The reason why that matters is you have multiple hamstring muscles that cross the back half of your leg here. And if I'm constantly twisting to one side, I'm creating relative rotation of my trunk over my femur. And what that does is that changes the mechanics going into the hamstring, and it results in one side of the hamstrings getting loaded a little bit differently than others. So we're trying to create symmetrical loading. So we're trying to keep our hips square when we go through that motion without opening up. So I'll demonstrate to the side and I'll face the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So again, go through that step, another half, foot elevated, slight knee bend, sink into my hips, and I'm gonna come down as far as I can, keeping a neutral spine, and back to that top position. Okay, and then a front on view here is again, just being mindful that you're not rotating. So if that means you have to start with a less range of motion, that's fine. Just stay square with your hips pointed at the ground. As always, quality over quantity. Focus on your mechanics first before increasing the load. Train through a good range of motion, then add load once you have those other variables mastered.